World Development System. Chapter 161. Aaron arrived at Laguna Port with his fleet. He wasn't particularly proud as he thought that he lost a lot of men in his last battle. He was quite surprised that people still cheered for them when he lost so many of his men. The Laguna Port, only today regained some of its lost vitality after news of Aaron's win. However, the faces of common men were still desolate because they knew that war was coming and they would be ones who would feel the most effects of war. One of the men gossiped, "Why is Duke's personal night order waiting at the port? And what is the reason that they have suddenly opened the ports? Do you know anything about it?" The old man stroked his beard and spoke, "Well, the rumor is, Vice Admiral Aaron won his battle against Duke Rose and he was successfully able to bring 2 of their ships in a deadly raid near southern seas. This was partly possible because Admiral Shannon had another plan since he believed it would be very hard to raid Count John as he was on alert after Evan's assassination. And this is also the reason why they are waiting at the port, ready to greet Admiral Aaron." The other man furrowed his brows with cynicism and asked, "Isn't it just propaganda by Duke Fjord to soothe the masses for this loss and the war he started? You know, I read those newspapers from the North Frontier domain as well to get their perspective. They also said that Lord Grimm and Darius ran, which is true according to many people in the Navy. They were quite disgusted with the behavior of Lord Grimm and Darius. One of my friends also left the Navy in anger because they stained his honor." The old man nodded his head but spoke calmly, "However, you have to think logically as well. Not with emotions. Duke Fjord wouldn't have opened the port for everyone if he was lying." The other man thought about it and agreed, "I guess that's true as well." The old man spoke after watching some movement among the knights. "See, there is movement within the knights. I guess the scout has already spotted the fleet and they are now getting ready to greet them." The captain of the knight gave his orders and made his men get ready to welcome them. "Get ready to welcome Admiral Aaron. I don't want any mistakes from you guys." As soon as Aaron arrived at the port, there was a big welcome for them by the Fjord's personal guards, which was an honor only state guests and people equal to Duke Fjord would get. The sour mood after the previous defeat was slowly getting washed away after Aaron's successful operation and watching Duke Rose's 2 ships firsthand. A lot of commoners were quite surprised after watching the news ships with their fleet coming into the port. The man spoke after carefully watching the ships. "It seems they were correct when they said they were able to raid 2 of their ships and get their hands on the ballistas. Those ballistas are quite well protected this time around. Just look at the number of soldiers on that ship." Another man added in after watching them gossip, "Yes, in the end it was Shannon's disciple who was successful in acquiring those ships right under Rose's nose." The old man spoke to them, "See, I told you, I was quite confident because Duke Fjord was already prepared before his arrival. And I have one more reason why Lord's operation was successful." The new man asked, "Why do you say so?" The old man smiled and spoke with an all-knowing tone, "Because he had already hired all the important craftsmen in the domain yesterday, and this also gave many people a lot of hints." He continued, "And as I said, they wouldn't have opened the port this early if they wanted to hide something." The man spoke with a grave tone after understanding the consequences of such a thing. "If what you are saying is correct, then they intend to replicate those weapons to regain superiority in the Easter waters just like the old days. I hope my friends who left the Navy remain safe." Aaron left the ship and headed to the captain of guards. However, Aaron was immediately greeted by Shannon. Shannon greeted Aaron after he came down from the ship. He was quite happy with his safe arrival and spoke, "It is good that you are fine, kid. You have now become a big man after this raid." Aaron shook his head and spoke, "It would not have been possible without you, master. And this time I lost a lot of my men." Shannon sighed and spoke, "Nah, you earned this victory. You wouldn't have won if you hadn't executed all the orders on the right time according to your own judgment. And remember, war is brutal, so it would be better if you stopped attaching your emotions with your men, as it would only hurt you more. I know about it as I have experienced it firsthand. However, it would be your decision in the end. Take that pirate Blake for example. he attaches a lot of importance to his men and hence it became his weakness for years. However, this has also increased his hatred and determination to finish Duke Fjord and take his revenge. So this a two-edged sword. Aaron sighed and gave his answer, I understand, master, I will keep these words in mind. However, I still can't do what you expect me to do right now at this stage. Meanwhile, what happened to you, master? You don't look good currently. Shannon sighed as he looked at his own shadow in Aaron and spoke, It's okay. You will grow with wars eventually. As for my mood, we suffered the biggest defeat in our history under my leadership, so you can understand. He continued, in total, we lost 5,000 plus men this time around. We really underestimated that count and that pirate when it came to the firepower of those ballistas. Anyway, let's go. I don't even want to speak on this topic. Duke is waiting for us. We will talk later on. After Shannon and Aaron left, people were allowed to watch the ships in small numbers. The commoners gossiped as they saw the ballistas, so it is really true that Lord Aaron was able to capture those ballistas from Duke Rose. It seems we aren't fated to lose this war just yet. As expected from Captain Shannon, as his experience came in handy. The old man spoke after watching the expressions of Shannon and Aaron. True, however, I am worried about the truffle between Lord Shannon and Darius/Grim duo. The other guy nodded and agreed, I guess the same is true for Lord Fjord as well. He might be really worried about both of them, as both of them control a part of the army and have quite a lot of influence under them. The old man spoke, anyway, I expect the sparks between both Duke Fjord and Count John to continue after this battle. No one of the two will yield, knowing the personality of lords. I expect a few big battles like the previous one. The man spoke after hearing about their personalities and the situation of war. Well, it is their honor which is at stake currently. So it's expected that none of them will subdue to one another. The mood of the port, though low, was still a bit cheerful, as some good news was given to the populace and spread in the city from the port. Many people started heading to the port for confirming the battle reports. Heading to the palace, Aaron heard about the events which took place and understood what happened while he wasn't present. Chapter 162. Aaron was in a low mood because of all the men they lost. However, he still headed to the palace to meet Duke Fjord. As he entered the meeting hall, Duke Fjord greeted him cheerfully. An enthusiastic Duke Fjord greeted Aaron and welcomed him as they got to the main topic. Vice Admiral Aaron, you did quite a good job in acquiring those ships in the previous operation. Even your master had quite a hard time against those ballistas. Aaron accepted the praise and spoke politely, Thank you, my lord, it would not have been possible without master's help and his precautions when he made the plans for the raid. This plan was specially crafted by master as he didn't want to take any chances. I was only there to execute the already made plans. So I think this victory goes to master and his plans. Additionally, I lost a lot of men in my operation. So I don't think I executed them perfectly. Fjord furrowed his brows a bit, but he kept his tact and agreed with Aaron, yes indeed. Shannon's experience comes in handy as he never takes any chances when he makes an ambush, and this time was the most challenging raid. He also groomed a capable admiral for our future, as you were able to command the whole fleet according to your own judgment when you guys raided them. So this shows the results and grooming of Admiral Shannon. It was not your fault that you lost a lot of your men in your operation. It was to be expected that we would lose quite an amount of our men after Admiral Shannon's operation. So we can't hope of the impossible from you. Fjord continued with rage as he remembered about Shannon's battle and the humiliation they faced. This time we will take our revenge using those same dreaded ballistas which he used against us in our last battle. Though imperfect they might be, they will still come in handy for us the next time. We also have the advantage of numbers, so we are in a good position. One of the ministers greeted Aaron and gave the heartfelt praise before he spoke. Lord Aaron, we already got news about you earlier, so we have already hired all the craftsmen in the domain to replicate this weapon. Those 10 ballistas will come in handy for our future operations and making of the prototype as well. Making the projectiles of those ballistae would be easier for us on the other hand. Duke nodded as he dreamt of conquering North Frontier Domain. This time, our 5,000 men will be avenged by razing his whole city in the ground that would be laid in ashes. He will regret the day he offended the Laguna family. I have already had enough of his antics with that bullshit newspaper slandering me every fucking day with his propaganda. Aaron was a bit confused about newspapers of Count Joe, but he still agreed and spoke, "Yes, my lord, this humiliation to my master will be avenged in kind. The very fact that Count John employs pirates in his navy is a stain to our aristocratic world. This thuggery can't be tolerated at all. Now I have no doubt that this count killed Lord Evan in his anger and rage because he targeted a mere slave of his." Jonas added as he saw the chance and gave his opinions, "Yes, this time we will move against them politically as well as militarily. We will not stop our raids on the ships going north or south. We will make sure that the eastern seas will be a graveyard for any ship traveling from here. We will continue our small raids. This time we are going to employ some mercenaries to do our dirty work. This time we will make it a war of attritions and divide our forces instead of concentrating them." Duke Fjord added with a cunning smile, "Yes. Let's see how he handles the mercenaries who will create havoc in his domain. This time I have already 4 mercenary groups, 2 of which were already funded by us." Jonas asked about an important matter, "Lord, maybe we can contact Prince Hector and time our attack this time around. You know they are still waiting for our answer." Fjord furrowed a bit but spoke decisively, "Okay, but we will continue with our operations. If they don't agree then they can piss off." Watching all this drama, Admiral Shannon furrowed his brows as he thought that civilians should not be targeted intentionally for personal grudges. After the meeting ended, Shannon and Aaron headed to their training quarters. Aaron asked Shannon after they were alone with no ears prying, "Master, I felt you were being somehow outlined during the last meeting. Is everything going well?" Shannon gave a weak smile as he explained, "Well, they are cautious about it. I guess it is because of my differences with Grim and Darius. This is the reason why they are targeting me intentionally." Aaron furrowed his brows as he heard about them. "Grim and Darius? Are the newspapers that are spreading those messages about Grim and Darius reporting truthfully? Are they really correct?" Shannon spoke with some anger in his tone, "Yes, my last mission also failed because of their selfishness when they joined the operation and overrode my orders. We would have lost much fewer men if they hadn't disrupted the whole order fleet. You should remain careful of both of them. Also don't get emotionally involved in this war just because I lost a war, because you will be used like a pawn if you do so. This is also one of the reasons why I want you to always remain in control of your emotions and think with a calm head when dealing with the political circles. I have been a pawn a lot of times because I didn't understand politics when I was young. This time I have also decided not to chase after my men who have decided to leave the Navy. They certainly felt cheated because of previous betrayal. I guess I can't express this opinion publicly. However, I won't be leaving this war. Since I had joined and made my oath to Laguna House, I will be battling till my last breath and die with honor in this war." Aaron nodded as he got to know about other events. "Okay, as you say, Master, I never expected Lord Grim and Darius to desert a battlefield. I was certainly wrong about them. I will consider your words seriously and remain cautious with them." Shannon sighed and spoke, "It is Jonas which you should be more cautious, as he is the one who strategizes for Grim. This time I think the war will be most brutal in our current century, as that is a lot more mysterious and unpredictable. So you got the gist of it. Okay. Come, let's start your training." Aaron murmured as he heard his master, "I guess I need to see those newspapers from now on to hear about other news as well. And it seems I have considered Master warning very carefully." Chapter 163. During this time the aristocrats of Fjord's domain were quite surprised after the last battle of Fjord's with Count John. Most surprised were the ones who had decided to fight under Fjord's banner this time around. However, they were soothed after knowing the results of Vice Admiral Aaron's victory against Duke Rose. The Count spoke, "It looks like we will be transferred to the northern frontier after that last battle of Duke Fjord." The Viscount from the banquet spoke, Yes, it looks like Duke Fjord wants to spread this battle to a wider frontier. The Baron, who was opposed to war previously, still joined the battle as he was forced because of his geopolitical needs, since he was surrounded by domains who were supporting Duke completely. He spoke after hearing them. However, I don't think we would be safe even if we have more ships. The battle results were quite clear and we should be cautious. However, the Baron hadn't committed a lot of troops for the battle and only gave a mild warning. Count Mike spoke to reassure them, as he knew that previous battle affected the morale of a lot of aristocrats. You know, this time mercenaries are going to move as well. One of them is the Gold Rush mercenaries. You should know about their reputation already. They are the biggest mercenaries out there. This time they are quite interested in looting the North Frontier domain. Their head Jim is quite interested, you know. He continued with a sweet tongue, while 2 other mercenaries are affiliated with Fjords already, and while the other one of them is the 6th biggest mercenary group out there, the Glorious Explorers. They joined them because they were pissed by the fact that Count John kicked them out of his domain for not following their laws and always trying to have their way with money. They thought they were big shots since they were hunting bigger animals in the north and providing more resources in that town. However, the law enforcement didn't even hear their bullshit after they got violent and their thuggery started with locals. You should know how the mercenaries behave after they think they got some leverage in any domain. A count added, hearing about the fate of Glorious Explorers. Yes, I too heard about that. They even their shit against them and a lot of their men were instantly killed after the brother of the head of Glorious Brother tried to kill one of the law enforcement officers. Their head Joss was quite angry and was just looking for a way to act against that count. The Viscount, as he faced the same problems when he hired mercenaries. Yeah, I heard of this problem at most of the places apart from the domains of Duke. At least in the capital, they always remain well behaved. I guess Glorious Explorers faced an iron plate this time around. Count Mike spoke after hearing about various rumors. This time you guys won't have to worry, because Duke Fjord is already preparing those ballistas for his next bigger battles. Viscount, who was quite influenced by Mike, agreed and spoke. Yes, this time even Prince Hector will also be making a move. So this can be our chance to try and ransack him. I don't think we should miss this chance. The Baron thought, previously when our caravan was traveling there to sell the mulberry fruits. They spotted them making a lot of castles. While one of the castles was already built. I guess I am better off invading them via land. This Count Mike is quite cunning. Anyway, it is better if I don't speak now or they will anyway get angry. Ralph meanwhile sipped the tea and told his subordinate, it looks like I was right in abandoning that war. That count is very dangerous just from the looks of that previous battle, and he is also affiliated with that lunatic Lukov, so it is always better to be cautious if they decide to do something insane. So did you get any other information? The subordinate spoke. Yes, apparently Prince Charlie has also moved. It seems he is ready to affiliate with the Radiant Church. While the most suspicious ones are Prince Lukov and that Count John. Ralph stroked his chin in confusion and spoke. Knowing Prince Lukov's personality, I guess he is planning something big. As for Count, what is he doing? The subordinate spoke and gave him the report. They are carrying out a lot of patrols in the northern seas. People are guessing he is being cautious for dwarves' attack. But I think it is something else. Ralph nodded. Okay, keep watching all the big players, we will make our move at the very end. Even that old man will be surprised. Ralph continued and murmured, I guess I still need to be cautious and wait for Charlie's move. Currently, Lucius and Co were training with Jake. Clay whispered to Azrael and Lucius as they did meditation, do you know, I heard from that old quartermaster Bill that we had a big victory against Duke Fjord when they ambushed our trade fleet. I wonder when we can join Lord John's army. Azrael sighed and spoke, I guess I won't be near. I expect at 3 years before we would be allowed to join them on missions. Lucius was interested as this was about the war against Fjords. What? We won't be able to join them even if we complete this training. Both Clay and Azrael looked at him as if they were looking at an idiot. Azrael spoke with a confused face, when did you become so stupid, Lucius? I thought you were the most sensible guy in our group. Lucius calmed down and tried to explain himself. Nat, I just thought if we can complete our training we would be eligible. Jake, who was nearby reading the new skill scroll, scolded them after hearing their gossiping. Stop your blabbering and concentrate on your meditation. If you do well, you guys will be taken to a new place. Later on, you guys also have to train on your skills. Clay muttered as he heard Jake. Miss Josephine was better. Jake is such a stuck-up guy. Is he really a teenager? Damn, he is older than that old man Bill. He doesn't even act according to his age. Anna giggled as she heard them and focused on her meditation immediately. Jake ignored the rants of Clay and murmured, Aurora Island, I guess it will be quite a trip with these brats over there. It would be a perfect environment to train them. Chapter 164. The Imperial Capital. Currently, there was a meeting going on between several ministers from all the domains in the Justice Administration Department of the palace. It was specially made for special cases where there was a dispute between multiple lords. There were a lot of people present here today, including Minister Justin of Black Wolf's domain. Jonas, representing Duke Fjord, presented his case to everyone present. Dear Ministers and Your Majesty Lionheart, I think all of you are aware of Count John's various activities by now. In the previous battle as well, he had slaughtered 3,000 plus knights of our domain when in fact they had surrendered already. I hope there are severe punishments taken against Count John. The noble etiquette demands that soldiers who surrender should be treated as prisoners of war and given a fair trial instead of completely slaughtering them. One of the judges from the Justice Department furrowed his brows as he heard about his hypocrisy and asked Jonas, well, it is war, what do you expect, Minister Jonas? You can't expect the drums to roll your way all the time. Please talk and present your case with tact. Jonas nodded and gave his justifications. Had that been the only case, then I wouldn't have come here with this petty matter, but the matter of the fact is that Count John has defied a lot of norms and has employed a pirate as his navy admiral. I am sure you are aware of the notorious pirate Blake, right? Most of Blake's men are working under him. He is quite notorious and wanted by the royal family for raiding their ships in the past. Even if the situation was only that, I would have still remained quiet. I am sure all of you know about the recent events, right? A lot of the merchant ships in the east were raided by that pirate and bought back at the eastern port. Most of the officials can confirm you that. If it was only the vessels which belonged to us, then I wouldn't have complained, but they have also targeted a lot of vessels belonging to other people, which includes the Radiant Church and Duke Norman. The judge furrowed his brows and asked, aren't the Radiant Church affiliated with you guys, so why is there any surprise? Jonas was ready for as he handed over some documents and spoke, nope, it is completely a transactional relationship. We were simply offered loans for this war which we will repay to them later on. Here is the deed of agreement with Pope David. Who knows if that count might target even the royal family if you ever decide to give a loan to us and they decide to target you for giving us a loan. King Lionheart smiled as he heard Jonas. He thought, I guess I can start acting against that count now that we have a legitimate reason. The judge looked towards Lionheart and later spoke to Jonas, it seems your complaints are reasonable. However, didn't Duke Fjord claim the same thing about raiding any ships in the eastern domain? Jonas was quite a good influencer and gave their justification, I understand that, my lord, but talking and taking action are two different things. We haven't taken any sort of that action which was proclaimed earlier. And if you notice, Duke was only in rage when he proclaimed that publicly. He retracted about it after he thought calmly. We are only targeting ships that belong to Count John's domain. Additionally, that count hasn't sent even one of his men to defend himself or present his case in the court here today. Isn't it clear disrespect for the authority of the royal family and our rules? One of the barons present here today thought as he heard Jones, humph, you think people don't know that you guys simply take it to your different ports and have the mercenaries take over the ships? I guess Count John is either naive or intentionally doing this as he expected the royal family to support him as he provided the ballistas. This time King Lionheart stopped the judge and gave his judgment. You are quite correct, Minister Jonas, the very fact Count John did not send a single man for today's case is very insulting the royal family, and add on the fact that he has employed a pirate who is wanted by us for a very long time. Instead of handing him over to us when he caught him previously, he decided to employ him in his fleet as an admiral, which is very insulting to the royal family and all the other nobles who were previously robbed by him. This very much goes against the noble etiquette and honor. This not only brings shame to nobles, but it also brings humiliation to nobles for being associated with him because of his position. A lot of ministers saw King Lionheart's tone and understood what was going to happen. Meanwhile, Ian Red had a premonition that this would be bad for them. However, it was too late, as Lionheart proceeded to give his judgment without waiting for anyone. Jonas smiled as he saw King Lionheart's tone and understood that he had decided to act against John. He spoke to Grim, "I guess it is time. We got much in return, unlike what we expected previously. From the looks of it, King Lionheart is going to take action against him. I guess it was good that I gave him the information about Elves' journey to the North Frontier domain previously. Additionally, he too is annoyed by people complaining about the royal cuisines, as that count is declining to share a lot of things, which includes those recipes and cement for the construction industry." Grim had a smile on his face after watching the court. Yes, the royal family has their own interests and motivations, and it was good that we got to know about Rose's journey over to South because of our spying over preparations for the last battle. I guess we gained a lot after our last operation. It was not fully dud. Jonas nodded and agreed, "Yes, my lord." For the first time, Defense Minister Plato saw that something was amiss when Count John didn't send any of his men. He thought, that Count isn't that stupid, even a stupid man would know to send a man to represent him in this dispute between two lords. It seems he is intentionally doing this so that he can get sanctioned by the royal family. From the looks of it, it seems that Ian Red was right when he said that this Count seems dangerous. Why are my instincts saying the same thing? From the looks of it, that Count really isn't afraid of anything right now. King Lionheart proclaimed with vigor and unmatched aura that was only leaking authority, "Count John's domain will be sanctioned with an increase in tariffs for all the luxury goods they export by 20% in all the domains controlled by the royal family directly until he hands over that pirate Blake and apologizes to the royal family. However, I also hope that both the sides show restraint and try to resolve their difference through dialogue. These tariffs can increase in the future if Count John remains defiant on protecting that pirate." Jonas neither agreed nor disagreed with King Lionheart as he spoke, "Yes, my lord. We only hope that Count John hands over the culprit who killed Lord Evan, as this will be the best measure to normalize the situation and bring peace in both the domains." King Lionheart nodded as ordered everyone, "Okay, everyone is dismissed. The sanctions will be implemented starting tomorrow. Is everyone clear?" All the ministers answered immediately after hearing the king, "Yes, my lord." A lot of people were shocked after hearing King Lionheart's decision and understood a lot of meanings behind this decision. The Baron spoke after hearing the conclusion of the dispute. "It seems King Lionheart is pissed at the fact that Count John is interacting with the elves, and he has started accumulating a lot of food supplies for his domain. From this, it looks like Count John isn't trusting the royal family and preparing for the worst." The Viscount from the capital spoke, "Yes, it seems the royal family isn't too happy with the actions of Count John. I guess this was to be expected. I wonder what would Count John do now that even the royal family has abandoned them. I guess he was stupid when he decided to hand over those blueprints of Bally State to the royal family." The Baron rebuked and spoke, What can he do? He only has power in the seas. Now he will understand what it means for defying and earning too much. Additionally, the royal family has an army which is 100 times bigger than his army. He will only succumb eventually and share some of his technology to the royal family. This exactly seems like the time when the Lore family was targeted by the royal family, but at that time the royal family was quite cautious when they acted against the Lore family. However, the royal family is quite brazen this time around. The Viscount sighed and agreed, I guess it is because they already got the ballistas which they wanted. However, I hope this doesn't go out of control and that Count provides those ballistas to the dwarves or the demons." Another Count came in and spoke after hearing them. "He won't provide it to them as the dwarves are quite close to the fjords and this would only backfire him. As for the demons, you can't trust them. And do you think the royal family isn't prepared when they took action against them? Additionally, knowing the personality of that Count, he is someone who is quite stubborn and won't give those to anyone easily. And he isn't as strong as the lore where other powers would consider him as an equal." Viscount thought and spoke, "Yes, this is true as well. I wonder how long would this Count last. However, I have heard from the inner circles of the ministers that King Lionheart has a grudge against that Count because of his relations with Prince Lukov, or else the judge wouldn't have been surprised after King Lionheart took action personally. I don't think he would have given such a harsh punishment against Count John." The Count nodded as he thought that something was different when the judge looked at King Lionheart, as it seemed out of instructions. "Yes, this can't be ignored, as I heard the same. I guess he should blame his relations with Prince Lukov from the actions of King Lionheart today. And today was the day King decided to act against him." Additionally, the ministers weren't surprised and quite composed, as they seemed to have a plan against that Count. So it seems that they already had made their plans against that Count. The Baron added, "I guess the reason may be as they already the blueprints of those ballistas. I am curious how that arrogant Count acts now that he is between a cliff and a well." Everyone dispersed as the news hit everywhere. Chapter 165. The next day, there was a furor in the political circles of North Frontier Town after the verdict of King Lionheart. Ambassador Luke sighed as he heard about the decision of King Lionheart. He thought, "I guess there will be big developments now that King has personally decided to act against the North Frontier Town. It seems his hate for Lukov is greater than what I expected. I hope we can pass through this storm calmly." Bishop Robert thought and spoke, "I wonder what pissed Lionheart off so much that he decided to act against Count John this early. Or is there something which I am missing?" His subordinate spoke, "I guess he is just being too greedy and looking at that Count as a rabbit ready to eat any time, as he has no power on land." Robert nodded and spoke, "I wonder who is the rabbit. But one thing is for sure, this Count has managed to anger a lot of people in a short time. I hope this done with already. Anyway, we will be leaving this town. I just got news from headquarters that there will be big battles, as mercenaries would be invading this town in a month." Both of them headed inside and made preparations for leaving the city. Taylor reported the current developments which took place in the Imperial capital, where they were targeted by King Lionheart. Hearing this, John called for an immediate meeting to all the officials in North Frontier City. In the afternoon, there was a meeting between all the ministers in the North Frontier domain. John smiled as he heard the news and commented in front of everyone, "It seems King Lionheart was quite impatient, as he has decided to target us already. It was expected. I guess he may be anxious, as we have bought a lot of food from the market at premium prices so that we don't suffer because of increased migration." Taylor too added his hypothesis after the verdict, "Yes, from the looks of it, he may be waiting to make his move against us when we are in a crisis and have a shortage of food. However, he may have gotten anxious about our meeting with elves and our ridiculous spending on food from other domains. However, we are well equipped these days when it comes to agro-management. So there are no worries on that sector." One of the agro-management ministers named Wilson spoke after taking the signal from Taylor. He was personally trained by Taylor to reduce his burden. He gave his report to everyone present. "Well, they are in for a surprise if they think we will be in a food crisis. Our harvest this time itself was more than 7 times compared to the usual harvest. We saved a lot of food in management and transport, while at the same time we had a huge growth in the harvest because of using fertilizers and other techniques proposed by Lord. The villagers are quite happy this time around because of the harvest and the quality of food we grew this time around." Watching these results, a lot of other farmers who were skeptical previously have also started using the same techniques used by others. The technique's penetration this time around is 100% this time around after the harvest. Knowing our dilemma, I have taken food management very seriously so that not a single grain goes wasted." John nodded as he agreed and congratulated him. "Good work, Wilson. From now on always keep more attention to the management of food, as most of the food will be lost in transportation and preservation. You have already heard of the preservation techniques, right?" Wilson nodded. "Yes, my lord, we have already started our work on it. For long-term storage, we have started using preservatives, so there is no problem in that department as well. Currently, we have started supporting the animal husbandry industry as people can earn extra pay in it while we will have more supplies of food." John nodded in agreement as he was impressed by the initiatives taken by Wilson in agro-management. John later turned to Glenn and spoke with a cunning smile. "Glenn, from now on we will start speaking out against the royal family in our newspapers. First, we will target all the previous injustices that people have suffered previously. You know about Professor William, right? We will publish his works first this time around, and also publish the book of Professor Haig, which was previously banned by the Imperial University. I will also be announcing that all the slaves in my domain will be freed in 2 years. This will be our attack against the royal family this time around. While this will also increase the morale of slaves because of our public announcement, I hope to remove the resentment that the slaves will have against us because we purchased them. Yes, we will also start to make hit pieces on Prince Hector every day on his antics. We will make him a laughing stock." Glenn was surprised after hearing John and spoke. "Lord, wouldn't this make us straight enemies of the royal family? I think it would be quite radical if we claim to free the slaves after 2 years, and even if we are to free them after 2 years, why don't we do it discreetly where no one bats an eye? Not a single lord has claimed to free all of their slaves publicly over 100 years in the domain of Elias' kingdom. Those who claimed publicly were silenced immediately by the parties whose interests were harmed. And it was mostly done by the mercenaries funded by aristocrats. This time even the mercenary groups who are not funded by the aristocrats would see this as an attack on their interests." Even Taylor, Cornwall, and Co were quite surprised by John's proclamation, as this was an attack on most of the aristocrats of the kingdom. Sally smiled after hearing John and was the one who spoke now. "It seems you have made your decision now." John had eyes that were filled with resolve as he spoke with a grave tone. "Yes, I won't be taking back my decision even if the king himself is present here with his whole army. You see, I never liked the practice of slave trading from my childhood. This may be my first time publicly proclaiming my opinions on slave trade, but this time we are prepared to fight them since they have touched my bottom line. And I am someone who is not a pushover. Do they think I am of lower family who will submit so easily? Since they decided to target me and my people, then they should be prepared for a bitter battle against me. I am someone who remembers his grudges and would finish my enemies so that they can't attack me or dare to attack me in the future. They want a piece of North Frontier Town, they better be prepared to lose a piece as well." Sally was quite surprised after watching the resolve of John and understood that he won't be taking back his decision. Sally sighed and spoke. "Before you announce, I want to reveal something, or it might affect you guys." She continued, "I am actually the daughter of King Lionheart, but I am an illegitimate daughter born out of circumstances, so this might affect you. I think I should leave, or else the royal family might use my kidnapping as a pretext to attack you guys." John smiled as heard her. "I expected your background to be something of this sort. You don't need to worry. Even if you were not present, they might find another pretext to attack us. So you can remain or leave as you wish." Sally murmured, "Both of you are stubborn. I guess you more stubborn than him. I guess you are prepared for a big war." Eva was quite surprised today after hearing these many shocking things in a single day. Chapter 166. John immediately indicated to everyone in the conference, "Okay, continue with the meeting, we need to take a lot of decisions today." A lot of people were shocked by the background of Sally, but still calmed down and focused after hearing John's roar. Mayor Sam was the first one who gave his opinions. "Lord, won't the royal family instantly support Duke Fjord with such a decision? As this might backfire us. Tornwall smiled as he understood why were these radical decisions taken by John suddenly after the verdict of King Lionheart. He thought, I guess the creation of the cannon was one of the major reasons and the discovery of Aurora Island why Lord has decided to take these actions. I guess Lord's plans are moving forward to create a kingdom. However, there will be a lot of blood. I guess the royal family will only pay for it because of their greed. After hearing Sam, Tornwall spoke with a smile after hearing Sam's doubts. Mayor Sam, even if they support Fjord, we have our ways this time around. This is one of the major reasons why Lord is taking important decisions. Hearing Tornwall, most of the people in the room understood the duo, John and Tornwall, again must have created something new. Sam nodded and waited to hear them out. John too smiled and asked, Tornwall, are the cannons ready for mass production? If not, how much time it would take? A lot of people were confused as they didn't know about the cannons. Tornwall slowly explained about the cannons to everyone present here today. All the people were surprised and were with amazement and wonder at both Tornwall and John. Wilson spoke after hearing Tornwall, no wonder, Lord gave them the blueprints of the ballistas so early. And I always wondered about the rationality of giving our state-of-art weapons to them. Taylor immediately reminded everyone, however, everyone must remember that if it is exposed to anyone from you guys, you will be treated with treason. You guys might already know about the fate of the guys who ratted about the ballistas earlier. It was good that none have opened your mouth earlier. Everyone in the room understood the importance of cannons and the responsibility which came with their positions for knowing state secrets. Tornwall answered John, yes sir, they are ready to go into production any time around. You only need to give approval for the start of operations. This time they were quite easy to make because of the blueprints as well as the explanations and specified specs to make them run, which only made my and the team's work easier. Currently, I have already started working on the steam engines. This time I am super pumped and can't waste a single second after hearing about the encroachment of the dwarves, so we need to be cautious this time around. John was surprised as he smiled and nodded, good work, this time as a present. We will not be selling our new wines in small quantities. From now on, we will be open to selling our alcohol in large quantities, however our prices will remain the same. Additionally, we will be fully exploring the beverage market with various new types of drinks. I guess we will be breaking a few hearts this time around in the Imperial capital. Everyone smiled as they understood that this move by John was to target the king's brother-in-law, Ben's father, who was in alcohol business. John continued and asked Tornwall, any news on Tim? Has he reached Aurora Island? Tornwall nodded as spoke, yes my lord, they left for Aurora Island yesterday morning with other supplies. I personally met Blake, who said that he was going to personally escort Tim. I think they might have already reached yesterday with the speed of their ships. With Tim and our team of engineers over there, they might have already started building the other remaining infrastructure for ammunitions and other necessities. I have also given him a copy of blueprints for making ships at our shipyard in Aurora Island. This will be a big test for him. John nodded and headed to the next topic which needed attention, good going. Taylor, what is the current strength of our armies? Taylor immediately reported, we currently have a total of 30,000 men in all of our forces. This was only possible because of the increased migration from other regions and our preferential policies, which has attracted a lot of people. This has only increased the application for our armies after our last result when we thrashed Duke Fjord in the eastern seas. Part of the effect is also because of the funeral that took place previously and attended personally by you. The current population of the city is currently 1.2 million. However, this is also increasing day by day, and so is the burden on food. It was only recently relieved after our last harvest, which was more expected. Many people have joined farming only recently. However, there won't be a problem as they have seen the results of our farming techniques. John nodded and continued, it's okay, we will transfer people to Aurora Island to increase our produce on farms, and if there is less land then we can simply encroach the northern forest. No need to be afraid of those beasts. Even if you face the dangerous beasts, use the ballistas without worrying about the number of projectiles. We are anyway running the factories 24 hours for the production of projectiles. Meanwhile, continue buying the food in huge quantities without worrying about costs. You all should remember that human resource is the most valuable resource in this world, so we won't abandon a single one of our men when it comes to basic necessities. Is everyone clear? John ended with a strict tone that inspired everyone present. Everyone roared hearing John's speech. Yes, sir. Continue with other reports, Taylor. Taylor, we are slowly gathering men and not forcing anyone to join the armies. Currently many are being trained in the institute. Some are young while some older. The cream of the crop this time will be transferred to Aurora Island for better training. Some of them will be training with Aurora horses so that we can add them to our force. I think you already know about the raid on Aurora horses last time around. Currently, our main focus is on Jake's team of 100 people who are diligently training these days. Many include magic knights, which will be one of the most lethal forces after underwater armors from Tornwall and researcher Will's workshop is built. Henry's son. Many people only thought that Aurora horses were just different breed of horses and didn't pay more attention to it. John signaled Taylor to keep quiet as he understood that he already knew Henry's son Lucius, who had made a cut in the batch of Aurora Island training. John asked everyone, "Are there any more questions?" Refone asked this time around, "Lord, if I may." John nodded. Continue. Refone spoke with a worried expression, "Lord, is this really okay? At least right now? Because even Duke Rose might be afraid to support us after such action of ours. Instead, it would be Prince Lukov who might be crazy happy with our decisions. Additionally, only 3 castles are currently built on our southern borders near Baron Mendez's borders. There still are 2 remaining castles left and are being built currently. We are not fully prepared." This time Tornwall spoke as he heard Refone. "He will support us. They have got hooked to our weapons and products, and after watching the firepower of ballistas he won't be taking a neutral position if the Royal openly supports Duke Fjord. And even if he takes a neutral position, he will support us in private, since we can provide them weapons and expertise on infrastructure for building castles and other armed buildings. And even if they don't support us, we can still go through this crisis of food by purchasing it from the market, and we also have Aurora Island for our future. And I am pretty sure that they already like the ballistas and the superiority it provides in the seas with less manpower. Take last battle for example. Duke Fjord lost more men against him in the raid. These ballistas are enough to hook up Lord Sapphire." John understood Refone's concern and spoke in a grave manner, "It's okay, Refone. I understand your worries. I think every one of you has the same worries. However, this time, it is necessary to determine who are our enemies and who are friends right now before the beasts in North attack us, because that will be the time when we will be most vulnerable according to my analysis, as that would be the time when all the other parties who want a pie in North Frontier City would attack us with full force, and this includes the Dwarven Kingdom and Fire Abyss Kingdom. Just today, Master Vlad got news from the ministers of Blucia family that he has to return, and they won't be getting any support if Vlad defies their orders. However, Master has declined to go after their summons. So all of you must already understand that royal family has already started their plans behind our backs when they decided to attack us in the last verdict. This is also one of the reasons why I didn't send anyone, as they would most likely be taken a hostage in a ruse created by Lionheart. And this is also the reason why I have decided to accelerate my plans." Everyone's heart thumped as they heard John and understood what was going in the underwaters of the whole region of Elias Kingdom. John showed a cruel smile and spoke, "This time we will be doing a blitz and let them know the real power of propaganda. They choose a very wrong enemy this time around. You see, I can be very ruthless when I am angry." John turned to Taylor and ordered him, "Taylor, hire all the bards and employ them to sing the story of Professor Willam. Let us name the song, 'Who was Professor Willam?'" Most of the people were surprised as they heard John, while some wondered about the identity of Professor William. Professor Haig was the one who was most surprised. Taylor nodded and understood, "Yes, sir." John continued in a serious tone, remember it will only work once as they would ban such song immediately. So you would have to time the singing of bards on the same date and time. You see, songs have power which can even bring down kingdoms. I want everyone in the Elias kingdom to know about this song. Make sure to make a fine song. Taylor noted down all the important things on a memo. Professor Haig was quite excited after hearing John, as this was the first time he got to express his political opinions on the newspapers. He thought, I guess it was the right decision when I choose to join North Frontier Town. It would be worth fighting and dying for this domain and Lord John. No wonder my gut was telling me to join him. Glenn and others too smiled as they understood that Lord John was resolved and determined this time around to defy everyone in the kingdom. Sally thought in anger and sighed, I wonder who is crazier, you or that brother of mine. However, it seems John is fighting for his ideals this time, as he believes he has enough power this time around. I won't be leaving this town, or that scum father of mine would only use me as a political chip. Chapter 167. The next day at North Frontier Town. Giorgio read the newspaper as he had made the habit of reading it every day after coming to this town, as it was more easy to get information from the newspaper than roaming the administrative headquarters all day long. Whoa, 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 whoa. Is this for real? I need to inform Prince immediately about this. I always thought that Prince was the craziest of them all. I guess I was wrong. This count is even more crazy than Lord Lukov. This will be our chance. Everyone in the upper political circles was in shock as they read the newspapers of the North Frontier domain. One of the commoners read the daily paper and exclaimed with surprise, "What is this? Why is the king targeting us even after Lord had shown his loyalty by immediately offering him those our most advanced weapons? It seems the royal family has a lot of blood on their hands. Look at this incident where Professor William's whole family was slaughtered because he exposed a scandal." Another guy spoke in anger, "True, other lords would have delayed the delivery of ballistas and racked up the price if they had it. After such a long time we had such a good harvest, and these guys want to ruin it all. Fuck this scummy king." The old man smiled as he spoke, "It seems a lot of things are moving. I guess this is how Lord John is targeting the royal family by exposing them for what they are. However, there is one good thing, that alcohol would not be hoarded by those traitors. I wonder how these expos would fare to those ministers sitting in the Imperial city. Just look, there are a lot of scandals that are exposed today. These include Prince Hector and other ministers in the Imperial city. I expect there would be a riot in the Imperial city as they know about it." Another merchant spoke, "However, it is still dangerous in the eastern seas. There are non-stop small skirmishes going on in the eastern front. However, it looks like we are still in the upper hand, at least for now. Just yesterday Captain Blake was able to seize 3 ships of Duke Fjord who were patrolling. Captain Blake is quite good at capturing these ships." Everyone smiled as they heard it. Another wholesales dealing in other raw materials spoke, "Yes, this time I have decided to transfer my goods with Lord John's trading fleet. Though the prices are high, it is safer to trade via their fleets instead of individual fleets." The other merchants agreed and spoke, "Yes, I think I too will do it this time around." In another part of the town, one of the angry commoners blasted as he read the headlines, "It seems the Imperial city is full of scum. Just look at the way they have treated our lord. Humph, it looks like they are asking for a rebellion from our lord. Who the heck do they think they are?" Luke read the newspaper and had a face as if he could kill anyone at the moment. Is that Count serious or gone crazy? Why is he starting to ignite the debate on Professor William from now on? It seems he has finally started to target the alcohol business which he had suppressed previously. This is really serious. I need to immediately report this news to the Imperial capital. One of the subordinates spoke, "Lord, there are angry people outside our embassy. They are being held by the city guards. We have to leave via the back door." Luke furrowed his brows and spoke, "What happened?" The subordinate held his breath and spoke, "It seems they have read the newspaper and are quite angry with the previous verdict." Luke spoke with a grave tone, I guess I can now understand why the Radiant Church wanted to get their hands on the printing press. We need to place our importance on them as well. Simon too read the paper and had a very serious expression on his face. He thought, is he challenging the whole kingdom just because he can rule the seas, or is there something else in play? Pallet smiled as he read a piece on Prince Hector and spoke to Simon, who, I never knew about this incident of Lord Hector. Damn, this is too funny. Looking at your expression, I guess you already knew about it. Tell me, how many times have you covered up Lord's ass? Nat, it's okay, these guys will reveal a piece on Prince Hector every day. This seems a lot more exciting than all the other news. Simon ignored Pallet as he thought about the current circumstances. One of the teen slaves read the paper and was quite cheerful after reading it, as it was something related to them. Wow, we will all be freed of our servitude after 2 years. This is groundbreaking news. I need to inform all of my mates about this development. One of the other slaves who was traveling with him asked as he didn't understand the significance of this announcement, why are you so happy? Weren't we going to be freed anyway? The teen knocked his head and explained to him the ramifications of such an announcement. You idiot, though we were promised to be freed, this public promise would mean a lot more to all of us, slaves. Don't you understand that Lord has publicly given his promise to free us all? He won't back down from his promise after this announcement. He scratched his head and understood. He muttered, well, I always believed he would free us anyway. One of the teens spoke after reading the paper, I am immediately going to join the army. After such a long time we got improved living conditions, and those greedy scum want to destroy it for their interests. So what if he is the king? I will cut him down if I see him right here. After such a long time our family is able to save something and these guys come in. Since Lord decided to invest in us, I too would invest in my Lord as a subject and join the army, as we are low on numbers. I am sure with those weapons and enough men, we can protect our borders from those invaders. Heck, he isn't even forcing anyone to join it. The other group of teens agreed as well. Yes, it seems you are right, our Lord is quite generous, and this is one of the reasons why those big guys in capital think that we are pushovers. Since you are joining the army, we too are going to apply first thing today. Come, let's go. Hearing this, Luke was quite surprised as he was going to give the letter to his spy. The subordinate wanted to roar to those brats after hearing such impudent words from them, but he was immediately dragged away by Luke. Luke spoke in a grave tone, do you want both of us killed, right here right now? Even though there are a lot of guards protecting us. Do you think they would protect us if you insult their lord? They would simply ignore defending us and claim it as negligence to have us beaten up or killed. Remember, we are only acting as interlocutors and diplomats over here. Don't get emotionally involved. He thought, damn it, the situation is quite dangerous. This type of anger is only seen in countries where there has been a continuous war for at least 50 to 100 years. It's good that the Radiant Church didn't have their hands on such a tool. On top of it, these guys are exposing the scandals of the royal family left and right. I need to meet Count John or Taylor immediately. Taylor was quite shocked after watching the effect of newspapers. It seems Lord was quite right when he said we would get a lot of soldiers ready to fight us tomorrow. With this, we can be prepared for our war. One of his subordinates gave him the report, Lord, Ambassador Luke wants to meet you. It seems he is in a hurry and wants to meet upper management. Taylor smiled and nodded. It seems he is quite impatient after reading today's surprise. Okay, I will meet him. Bring him in. Luke came in and threw the newspaper as he roared as soon as the door closed, what is the meaning of this? Lord Taylor? I want an explanation. Taylor smiled as he expected this scenario before Luke even came in. Chapter 168. Taylor replied in a nonchalant manner to Luke, just as you can see. We are only reporting facts, nothing different. You see, our professors were itching to write these pieces for a long time but never got an opportunity. While Lord was in a very good mood yesterday after hearing the verdict, he allowed them to publish it today. And hence the result. Did you like it? Taylor ended in a cheeky way. Taylor spoke in a grave tone as he got straight to the point. Okay, let's cut the chase, as you guys never intended to fulfill your promise and are brazen siding with Fjord, what do you expect from us? This was, in fact, a very mild reaction from the Lord. Ambassador Luke tried to calmly explain about the verdict. It was only a fair verdict, Mr. Taylor. You guys should have at least sent a man representing your case at the Imperial City. This was very offending, and the fact that you guys employed a wanted pirate by the royal family only infuriated the king further. You must understand the circumstances. Taylor nodded. That's reasonable, but why weren't you bothered about Blake before our delivery of blueprints or when we appointed him? It is not like you didn't know about him, right? Luke spoke with a shred of shame on his face. We were waiting for you to hand him over to us without offending you. Luke was quite used to it as he was a diplomat. Taylor made an innocent-looking face and spoke. He gave a document to Luke and smiled. Well, that's reasonable as well. Have a look at this document. What do you think? You see, Master Vlad was asked to come to Blucia domain yesterday by the ministers of Blucia family. The timing and coincidences are quite interesting, right? Additionally, what happened to your previous promise of political protection when I delivered you the blueprints? Luke's face was red as he read the reports which exposed their activities left and right. If he could find a hole, he would have immediately hidden his face in it. However, he was quite thick-skinned, being a diplomat for a long time. The document revealed about King Lionheart's meeting with Demon Prince Chad. Damn it! How were they able to spy and get so much information about our confidential meetings? I am sure there is a mole in the Imperial Palace. I guess, this is it for King's relations with Count John, at least on a personal level. We can't even target him just because he is exposing some scandals. Luke seriously asked before leaving, are you guys really intending to continue your charade? Taylor nodded and spoke without any hesitance in a grave tone. Yes, Lord is prepared this time around to confront all of his enemies. Don't think we don't know your plans. We have a lot of eyes in your court. The meeting of His Majesty with Prince Chad was our red line. Luke left with a red face as he didn't have any arguments to resolve the current situation. Taylor reminded him as he left, yes, you guys shouldn't be worried about us giving those ballistas to the dwarves or any other party. However, you should be worried about pirates in the seas. And we would continue to expose a lot of things from now on. Just treat it as an eye-for-eye treatment from us. And just because we are a small city, don't think we can't fight. Shivers ran through Ambassador Luke as he heard Taylor. For the first time, he could see the power of information control as he remembered about today's incident. Luke thought, this will be a tough nut to crack. I wonder if I should believe him that he won't provide those ballistas to others. I hope this decision by ministers is correct, or we will be in a deep mess knowing the personality of this count. This count gives me a lot of danger signals as he always seems carefree without any worries. He is no less crazy than Prince Lukov. I guess I will increase his ranking to the S and category for most dangerous people, which are the biggest threats to the kingdom. He seems as dangerous as those demons in the west. I guess we need to be prepared for war. There was a lot of hubbub in the city because of the explosive news that was reported today. One of the dwarves spoke to one of his human mates in the pub. Haha, from now we can drink those new wines as much as we want. The other guy drank Red Moon and spoke, true, I always curse to wait in those long lines every day. Not to mention those paid guys who would line up every day to sell these delicious wines in the black market. Such a waste. Those guys in the black market were simply ripping off common men like us. One of the demons laid out his hypothesis after wines were sold in bulk. I think this decision was taken because of the previous verdict which was given in Duke Fjord's favor. The dwarf smilingly spoke, bullshit. It was because Tornwall successfully completed the clock tower previously. This has improved the life and productivity of everyone in the city. One of the guys spoke, I recently met the guys who came from the eastern port. This time we got a big raid of Fjord's ships. You can see the newspaper tomorrow to confirm this news. It seems the battles are intensifying in the seas. It seems north will be a mess. The dwarf shook his head and spoke with a smile which was full of optimism. Nat, it will be all fine, I believe in Lord. Since Tourney is willing to die for Lord John, then so am I. Prince Hector was red-faced as he read one of his most embarrassing scandals. Who the fuck revealed this news to those asses in North Frontier City? How were they able to get their hands on such sensitive information? Instead of focusing on other news, Prince Hector was more worried about the scandal where he was performing BDSM, being the one dominated by one of the women escorts. Alistair coughed and spoke, Lord, most of the men in the palace know it because of noises. I think those who left work previously ratted you out to earn some money. These days the black and white publishers are offering money for serious scandals related to aristocrats. They have most likely targeted us this time because of your father's sanctions which were taken in the last court meeting. Hector was fuming with anger as he almost gave out an insane order, damn those peasants, rattling out for small change. Kill all the servants. No, it won't work since that count would immediately use this against me and report it in his newspapers. I want full-proof walls where not even the voices of a whole banquet can be passed out. Do it immediately. I am already stressed with that moronic baron. I am more worried now since we can't be forceful now after watching the power of these newspapers. Alistair nodded and spoke. Yes, my lord, I will immediately sort it out. Lord, no need to worry about that baron, if he doesn't do our bidding. We can use his son Antonio. Additionally, he has grudge against John, so he can be a nice good pawn for us. Sir, I would like to give a suggestion. Hector nodded and spoke, continue. Alistair nodded and laid out the current scenarios. Now that Count John has infuriated Lord Lionheart, I think we can close the eastern port without any worries from the Imperial ministers. However, we would be open to warfare because of such radical action. We can do it now or we can do it later on when the beasts in winter attack him as we planned. My instincts are saying that he has intentionally provoked everyone right now, but I don't understand why he would do this right now. We also got a letter from His Majesty that they are willing to provide those ballistas if costs are paid up front. So the decision is up to you to decide. Hector furrowed his brows and remembered the warning of his brother and asked before making a decision, what is the battle report? Alistair immediately handed over the report and spoke gravely, very severe. I think you already know about the last battle of Eastern Seas where Fjord lost 5,000 plus men. And just recently that pirate, Blake, has seized 11 ships already. 2 of which belong to us. And if we go by the reports, I think we lost 3 more ships in the seas. They are most likely targeted by Count John. Recently they had a lot of suspicious movements. Hector thought for a long time and made a decision, we will wait till those ballistas arrive. Immediately answer father that we will pay up front and buy them. I don't want to take any chances before moving against him like the last time. You can fund the mercenaries to attack them via land though. That scummy father of mine would try to increase the prices, so tread with caution before you go into negotiations. And use that Antonio whatever guy, since the Baron is being a pussy, we must use someone else. Alistair nodded and left to carry out the instructions. Okay, my lord. I will proceed as you ordered. Chapter 169. Diana asked Vlad with a worried face, what was written in the letter? And is there any news from father? Vlad nodded and spoke. It seems Fire Abyss Prince Chad was able to convince a lot of nobles against us. This was only aggravated by our monopoly on soap and paper trade. The king himself is quite wary because of our purchase of ballistas and has placed a unit of his army near our western borders with the pretext of infrastructure protection and road safety because of robbers which were planted by them on the roads to clean them up. While your father sent me a secret letter to not to come home, as it seems ministers are probably doing funny business to jeopardize our relations with John. However, I think I will have to go eventually and make sure your father is safe. However, it is not right now. Diana smiled and asked, you read the newspapers, right? What do you take of John's declaration previously? Vlad thought for a while, spoke, watching his boldness, I get nostalgic and remember my younger days. I guess this is also one of the reasons why most of the kingdoms hated my guts. However, I guess John is more crazier and bold than my previous self. But if he has some big plans, then he might be the most cunning person I have ever known. He would even beat the devils in that case. You see, I can't make predictions on him, as he is someone who will bring something new out of the box, like the last time when he introduced the ballistas. Diana smiled as she heard him and spoke, "Well, in that case, you are right when you say he is a very cunning person. You just missed the last meeting when you were out and there were new secret weapons that were being developed by John. John asked me to keep it a secret and only to tell you. Not even my dad. What do you think?" Vlad thought and agreed, I guess he is planning something big and he doesn't want our ministers to know about it. Okay, we will play along with his act as it seems more interesting. His previous feat in the Eastern Seas has made me more hopeful. Meanwhile, tell me about the new weapons that were introduced. Vlad was shocked after hearing about the details of the cannons. He gasped as he remembered what John said to him previously when he had made the ballistas. He remembered, if they betray me, I will simply make weapons that are more lethal and are thousands of times more destructive than the current ones. With a shocked face, Vlad thought, my God, it seems he already had planned on making these weapons from the start. Vlad slapped his forehead and spoke with a smile after he heard about the cannons. It seems he was successfully able to goad everyone in the playing arena of this continent. It looks like he will be successfully able to build a kingdom. Diana couldn't understand as Vlad murmured, "What are you saying, Vlad?" Vlad shook his head and spoke, "Nothing, you won't understand in one sentence. I will explain it to you later. So tell me, what other things have you noticed recently in the new inventions built in this town?" "Recently I have been busy training Jake and Giorgio." Diana thought about Clock Tower. "Well, there are a lot of things. I think we will need a whole day if you plan to explore all the new inventions. Take that clock tower, for example. Let's head there." Vlad nodded and headed with Diana. Chad, Demon Prince at the Imperial Palace in Fire Abyss Kingdom. A subordinate of Chad handed over the report. "Master, you can see the report of the current waves in the Elias Kingdom. I think this is going open a Pandora's box for the whole region." "True, this count seems very interesting and cunning at the same time." "Why do you say that, my lord?" "Looking at the history of his decisions, then it can be seen that most of his moves were calculated, whether it was buying the archer slaves or buying that border town. At the same time, he has handed over the tech of those ballistas to the royal family, but he still hasn't handed over tech of those printing press, and finally he has started using it. My instincts say that he is baiting all the players to play his game. From an outsider's point of view, he seems carefree and doing what he wants to do. Anyway, the current situation is grave after watching the power of those ballistas in the seas." "What was the reaction of dwarves?" The subordinate spoke, unconcerned. "It seems they are waiting for something big to happen." Chad smiled and spoke, "It looks like they too have their own secrets and playing for time. Is there any news on Diana and Blucia House?" The subordinate read the report. "It looks like she is going to stay in that town, and from my reports she is quite close to that count and his friends. This time she may get inflicted because of the oncoming war. As for the Blucia family, they have started arming themselves with those new ballistas after we deployed a unit of the army under the same pretext of finishing off the bandits near their borders. However, the ministers there have summoned that guy, Vlad. If he doesn't come, then we can use Blucia's brother, Draco, to create internal conflict in the Blucia house. This will be an opportunity for us to divide that family." Chad nodded and spoke, "Okay, that will a good chance for us. I just hope Diana comes back safely, because that town will be the eye of the storm. Damn that count, if he wasn't courting Diana we could have become great friends. This is also one of the reasons why I didn't meet earlier when I visited the Elias Kingdom." The subordinate had a confused face and asked, "Why do you say so, master? Is he really that good?" Chad explained as he tapped the table with his fingers. He spoke with a serious expression, "Well, he is someone who is very cunning. Which is to my likes. And doesn't show his fangs until the right time. And I guess my liking is also because of the food and all the technological inventions which were most likely triggered by him. If he was a demon, then he would have been the biggest asset or the most dangerous individual to the Fire Abyss Kingdom. I say him being the most dangerous because I can literally see his ambitions if this thing is a bait. And he is not someone who is stupid, as he understands the importance of information control by not giving that printing press to anyone, and this is also one of the reasons why I believe that this weapon given to the royal family is a bait by him. Anyway, we will keep a look at him and the dwarves as they are making unorthodox moves these days. Henry meanwhile was in the capital of Southern Domain, Iron Rainforest. Inside a pub he was here to collect information on political events. He called the bartender and ordered a beer, extra special wheat beer. The bartender smiled as he understood and asked, "What kind of special beer do you want?" Henry was familiar with the routine and got straight to the point, ones related to the political events of the Elias Kingdom. However, I would like it was focused on Duke Fjord and Duke Rose's domain. The bartender took out a newspaper and handed it over to Henry with a couple of other information related to the lords of the Fjord's domain. "I think this can answer your questions." He handed over 2 newspapers to him. Henry was quite surprised as he had seen these newspapers at John's domain before leaving. He read one of the newspapers which were circulated and got most of the information. He spoke after reading, "You are quite sharp in realizing the value of these newspapers and using them for your benefit." The bartender smiled as he gave Henry his beer and spoke, "You flatter me, Lord." Henry smiled as he drank the beer, "So what is your personal opinion on the last battle of Fjords and Johns?" The bartender spoke without any hesitation, "A complete riot, as most of Fjord's fleet is underwater right now. I guess those ballistas were quite a game changer, and hence this is also one of the reasons why Duke is attacking them, as this affects their personal interests in the seas. As for Duke Fjord, a very ruthless person, to be very honest, he will use and throw away anyone who is under him, is what I concluded, whether it is his subordinate or his own kid. He was quite good at using his own kid's death for his own benefit." Henry smiled and continued asking, "What about Count John?" The bartender thought a bit and spoke, "A generous lord and quite an inventor. I heard he was one who previously invented those soaps or the ballistas created recently. As a person, he cares a lot for his men after I heard about his debacle with Lord Evan, and I think this can be his strength and weakness at the same time. However, I don't feel bad about this weakness. He had shown quite a spine where most of the lords would have backed down in his position. So I guess this has also inspired a lot of people in his domain to work under such a lord who is ready to protect his men. However, as an enemy, I think he is quite ruthless after knowing the results of the last battle. However, this is war, so you have to leave some of your morality behind if you expect to win it. Anyway, after this war, if the North Frontier town and Lord John are able to survive, then I am planning to move there, as most of my colleagues have earned quite a sum doing business over there." Henry nodded as he took his opinion, "Okay, I got most of the information, you can leave for now." Henry muttered as he read about Duke Rose's travel to the south, "It seems Duke Fjord is traveling right now, maybe I should meet him later and try hunting that bastard Sebastian or Darius for now. This would be a good blow to that scum. I guess I need to travel to Laguna City. Before that, I need to get a good disguise or I will be identified too easily." Chapter 170. Francis was currently with top heads of 3 mercenary guilds. Francis asked the heads, "So you guys know what to do from now on, right?" One of the heads nonchalantly spoke, "Yeah, infiltration, robbery and invasion at last, right? I am more interested in the compensation of you guys, what will be our share?" Francis spoke, "You will get the ballistas. You guys can share it among yourselves, and also free rights for slave trade except for important people." The other guys said, "I am more interested in the soap and paper factories. You see, these things will be more beneficial to us rather than the slave trade." Francis thought a bit and spoke, "Okay, but you guys will only get 40% of the shares of both the factories as Pope himself wishes to get his hands on it. Remember, don't try to bite more than what you can chew just like that, Count, or you too will get burned. You will only get those things if the operation is successful. This is the initial advance of 200,000 gold coins so you can start the operations. The third leader spoke in a cheerful tone after he saw the terms. Okay, that's a good deal. However, invading those castles will be a very tough job. I heard the fate of fjords and seas was quite dreadful. Francis understood their worries and reassured them, well, ships are mobile, castles aren't, so it would be easier to invade these castles. Our Templars too would be taking part in this operation. For now, you guys will start the bandit raids so that the traders are discouraged to trade with this town. He thought a bit and agreed, okay, I will send my men to infiltrate and for collecting information against that count. We will be making small teams of 20 people to raid the trade caravans. However, we would need shelter and protection for the neighboring lords if you want a successful operation. Francis nodded as he was already prepared. You don't need to worry, we already have a deal with Prince Hector for such an arrangement, so you guys will get shelter in nearby villages. One of the ministers reported to the king, My lord, there is an emergency. See the report and papers given by Lord Luke. It seems that Count is agitating his populace against the royal family. It seems as if that Count has started moving against our interests. King laughed as he read the reports from one of his ministers. Humph, what would he expect after being so naive politically? All that matters is the rule of the Elias family in this kingdom. If I support him, then that shorty would immediately create a civil war by aligning himself totally with those other shorties, dwarves, in the east. I guess he was quite unlucky this time around. Maybe he shouldn't have pursued Evan's matter and simply handed over that slave to Fjords. However, him getting the wind of our meeting with the Demon Prince is really stressing. I hope to continue that farce until the end of this war. Is there anything else? The minister continued, Yes, sir. Now they have released those alcohols in bulk and this has started affecting the sales of your brother-in-law. He just recently came in and reported about this issue, while the demon Vlad has decided not to return after the summons from the ministers, so this time it may be a little tricky. Lionheart asked, What about Hector? The minister gave the report. He has decided to buy those ballistas with upfront payment. It looks like he intends to use it. And there is a thing about pirates sinking 2 of our ships in the seas 2 days ago. How do we proceed? Lionheart furrowed his brows as heard about the sinking of his ships. It looks like that upstart needs to be taught a lesson. That paper also is influencing quite a big number of people in our city. Okay, deliver the first ballistas to Hector since he is ready to pay first. However, this crazy count needs to be taught a lesson. As Luke said, he certainly is crazier than Lukov. Ian Red was quite flustered as he heard about the reports of the meeting from his subordinates. He shivered as he remembered about the hordes of bodies that piled at the north frontier border when he saw the future. Ian Red called his subordinate and gravely gave orders, Prepare a meeting with Minister Plato immediately. I need to talk to him immediately. Ian Red muttered as he made a hypothesis, I need to stop this immediately. This is definitely a bait by the upstart. I was only able to understand the meaning of those visions right now. I am sure he is hiding something. This battle will be a festival for necromancers if my visions were correct. Ian Red called his disciple and ordered, From now on we will focus on that town and predict about the upcoming war. Don't focus on that count as he is an anomaly and we can't predict anything about him. The disciple asked, Yes, Master. Looking at your face it seems you are worried about something. Is there something wrong, Master? Ian Red irritatingly roared, looking at his carefree mood, Do your work. Time is precious right now. Inform all of them. The disciple nodded and left the room. He muttered, It seems something serious might be going on. Henry was in Laguna City with a disguise as he read about the latest developments in the Fjord Kingdom. It looks like Aaron was able to capture 2 of Rose's ships when he was out. If Fjord is able to make those weapons in bulk, then there would be a riot for sure, as he will be able to fully control the seas. It seems Fjords have lost quite an amount of ships while patrolling the eastern seas to Count John. I guess I need to start my work and track Sebastian. Maybe I can use Shannon and get my hands on Darius. I first need to meet Shannon. Prince Lukov was stunned as he smiled after reading the report from Giorgio. I never thought that Count John would take such steps against the royal family. It looks like he is finally ready to show his fangs. Duncan asked Lukov as he served him the wine. You seem quite happy, my lord. Lukov threw the report to Duncan as he took the wine. Read it, you will understand. Duncan was surprised after reading the report and the actions John took after the last verdict from royal family. Duncan summarized as he spoke. It looks like we officially can attack Prince Felix now that the royal family and Count John are at odds with each other. I think this would be our best chance. Lukov nodded as he spoke. Yes, I never thought that Count John would be so decisive. However, he will be vulnerable from all the sides after the next salvo of big attacks starts. I guess he has some sort of plan to retaliate against them. Duncan, I don't think he needs to worry. Giorgio reported that they have already built 4 castles on the borders with 20,000 men at the borders. Recently bandit raids had started, so they were busy cleaning up those bandits. The mini ballistas are quite useful in killing those men. Maybe we should order some as well. Lukov slowly sipped his wine as he concluded. I wonder what motivates him to be so crazy, or what is it that makes him so confident? I don't think he is crazy. I guess he is hiding something, as he still hasn't given up other technologies. Duncan focused on one of the points in the report and asked, Giorgio has reported that a lot of people in the North Frontier domain have started hating the royal family. He thinks that it is because of the influence of the newspapers. Lord, why don't we? Lukov signaled him and spoke immediately. Nope, I don't want to offend him unnecessarily right now. We will continue with our current plan and attack Felix when the other guys start their attacks. Yeah, meanwhile order some of those mini ballistas as well. Maybe instead of the printing press. You can ask him to print some of our books. Duncan smiled and spoke. Yes, my lord, I guess this would be better. In the minister's palace in Fjord's domain. Duke was getting quite restless these days after losing a number of his ships. Duke roared hoarsely to one of his ministers, how long would it take for you guys to make those ballistas? Haven't we lost enough ships already? I am already at my wit's end. One of the ministers spoke hesitantly. We have made the prototypes, but they aren't fully ready of war, my lord. They have a lot of inaccuracies and their range isn't even half of what was shown by that count. It would be risky to deploy them in the fleet.